All right, so I'm going to present 42 Amman first. Welcome, everyone. My name is Tina Sweis, and I'm leading Endless Possibilities at 42 Amman, a program by the Crown Prince Foundation, and it's part of a global network of 42 network campuses. The campuses are spread across the globe, and they form a strong collaboration of hiring partners as well as peer-to-peer learning through the campuses. Our partners are the Ministry of Planning and International Cooperation, Zain, the College of Advanced Vocational Training in Amman, Jordan, the French Embassy, and Shams NGO. What's very unique about 42 Amman is that when talking about the skill set challenge and the gap between hiring tech talent globally, what 42 Amman has been doing is we reverse engineer the tech talent for the needs of the industry through a very disruptive and a very unique approach. We look for people who are born to code in a very disruptive and unique journey, so that they can immerse in the industries that are looking for them. And what's very interesting is that the 42 program doesn't look for people who are coming from tech backgrounds, no. It's looking for anyone who has the logic, the memory, in a gamified way, that is able to start learning how to code in C, and then immerse into all coding languages and software development, and really specialize in computer science, and eventually become the true talent that is ready for the ever-changing needs of the industry. Our program basically is 100% free. The campus opens 24/7, which gives that flexibility for students to learn, earn, and study other things while they're working on their skill sets. It's 100% project-based. There's no teachers, and it focuses on peer-to-peer learning and peer-to-peer evaluation, because the age group that we take is between 18 to 60. So think about it this way. You have people from different realms of their backgrounds and their career paths, and they teach each other and they learn from each other in the same exact atmosphere and workplace that the hiring partners are looking for. And the magic about this is that the peer-to-peer learning approach really enhances their interpersonal skills and their soft skills, while really highlighting the ones that have true tech talent. The student journey is very gamified, so it utilizes neurobehavioral science in how to keep the students engaged and independent in their learning, while really needing building teams, problem solving, and learning how to learn. So they start with a rigorous selection process. As I said, they start with an online game. They play the 2-hour game. They get a pass or a fail. After that, they have to endure 26 days of coding in C, even if though they haven't learned anything in coding yet. And then we select out of each batch, which is 150 students at a time, we select the creme de la creme, the ones that survive with the interpersonal skills and the technical skills. What's really lovely about this is that we're doing the HR vetting for the hiring partner from a very early stage. We're looking at the ones that really want to be in that industry and that can survive everything that industry entitles. After that, they go into the core curriculum. These are the specialties we get into. I'll try to be very brief. All of our students do hands-on projects as they're studying, and then they're required to complete a 4 to 6 months paid internship and apprenticeship. All of the students that graduate from 42 Amman campuses can also go to the rest of the specialization in other campuses anywhere in the world. I'll skip through this one. Today, we have 10,900 applicants in Jordan, with 480 PSUTers trained. The piscine is a sink or swim model, the 26 days. And we have 158 active students. I also would love to highlight the gender distribution of achieving 40% female participation among all of the cohort applicants. And I wanted to highlight this very creative program before we delve into really talking about the digital skill gap and welcoming our guest speakers. Apologies for taking some time. All right. Allow me to welcome Professor Wejdan Elhaija, President of Princess Sumaya University for Technology. Professor Liz Bacon, Principal and Vice-Chancellor of Abertay University. Mr. Jean-Paul Mouton, did I say it right?
Yes, that's right.
Associate Director of Partnerships and Growth and Internationalization at WatSPEED, University of Waterloo. Welcome. After this introduction about a very disruptive way of learning, we want to take a look at the current status at universities today and really discuss the digital skills gap across the globe. Since yesterday, as I'm roaming around and meeting everyone in the tech industry, we see amazing technologies, we see a lot of growing companies, and then I ask them, what is the need? And even better, what is the dream? And the answer that is very common among each other is we are looking for talent. If you can give us talent that is ever growing, that is fastly learning, as fast as the changing technology today, this will be the dream. So I would like to ask each of you about how do we get to that talent? And let's start briefly by talking about your perspective on the growing digital skills gap and rooted cause and challenges facing the efforts of closing such a gap. Dr. Wejdan.
Thank you, Tina. Good morning, everyone. Actually, when we talk about digital skills gap, there are two components to consider. The first component is the general population, the regular Jordanians, and which we refer to digital gap. And this is what our government is addressing on a daily basis through IT literacy programs and through IT, internet accessibility and affordability and so on. And the second component is the skills gap. This is like skills gap between academia, our graduates, and the industry. And this is what I'm interested in because of my current role. So, Tina, many countries in the world, including the US and Europe, has identified the digital skills gap as a too complex problem, too complex to be addressed only by academia or industry, because industry is moving very fast and everybody is struggling to catch up, including the government and the service providers. That's why the digital skills gaps concern should be tackled holistically and individually. The industry has now shifted from demanding, knowledge-based graduates into skills-based graduates. And the scope, of skills vary in depth and scope as well. So, industry in Jordan requires time because it's relatively young, requires time to include and have a strong system that includes research and development and innovative centers. And the absence of the R&D centers or units in the industry will widen the gap. And their presence on the opposite will enhance the engagement between two sides. So my suggestion that there are three components that we should focus on as a strategies. We should encourage universities, to make adaptive curriculum that meets the job market needs. And we need to encourage the industry to lower its expectation for entry-level jobs and do their own training programs to make, the graduates ready for their job market needs. And those are not enough. We need also the government to continuously do upskilling and reskilling, training programs, not only for new graduates, but also for those professionals whose skills are no more matching the job market needs.
Great answer. Dr. Liz, I would also like to hear your perspective on that.
Thank you very much. So, I mean, the skills gap has been a challenge for a long time, and I think it's about to get a lot worse. We've talked a lot about automation, the impact of artificial intelligence through this conference, and I think one of the challenges for higher education is trying to work out what are the skills that industry needs in future, because being honest, sorry, I'm being attacked by a fly. If we ask industry, what are the skills you're going to need when we graduate students in 3 to 4 years' time, you don't know the answer yet. With good reason, you don't know the answer. So the challenge is, what do we actually educate our students for in terms of the future? And I think a lot of those skills have to be a lot more generic. And I agree with my colleague here about industry also playing its part in terms of upskilling. But I also think we have to think about the skills not just for now, but the skills for the future. When we educate graduates, we educate them for a life in industry, not just that first graduate job. And it's really important that actually the skills we give them are going to prepare them for the world of AI and automation. There's a lot of discussion these days about, you know, students going off into the world of work and having 7 careers, not just 7 jobs. 7 careers, because of the constant automation and the need for upskilling that will have to occur over their lifetimes. And thinking through how we're going to prepare the students for that is a real challenge. But I think a whole of education from school age through to university needs to work together and to coordinate in terms of how we actually address those skill gaps, because they will change over time. You know, and it's very clear that all disciplines are going to have to learn to work with an AI assistant being part of the normal work employment environment that our graduates will go into. But of course, we have to think about, what does that mean for the students and the graduates? We have to ensure that humans stay in control of the AI, and we don't become lazy and start to rely on it and think, okay, that answer's good enough, I'll go with that. We have to be in control of artificial intelligence. But of course, all the students have got to learn the basics. So I think we have to have very close working with industry to see how things evolve in different disciplines, so we can feed that back into the curriculum as fast as we can to educate the graduates of the future.
Thank you. Mr. Jean-Paul.
Same question. I think our colleagues have answered this one well. I will lean into the idea of lifelong learning being particularly important because, as Liz mentioned, when we graduated students about a generation ago, when our parents went to university, they had a half-life of skills of about 26 years. And today, the half-life of skills that students leave universities with is about 5 years. In some fields, as short as 2.5 years in cybersecurity, for example. So that presents a really pressing challenge, and it's not going away. It's not like we're going to close the digital skills gap and then it's going to be over. There is a proliferation of new technologies at an ever-increasing pace, and the adoption of those technologies increases in pace all the time. When the telephone was invented 100-some years ago, it took 75 years to get to 100 million users. We all know that ChatGPT achieved that in 2 months. So with the continuing pace of new technology emergence and adoption of those new technologies, we're constantly going to have to be involved in reskilling and upskilling people. It is a fact that human adaptability and the emergence of new technologies have now, those graph lines have crossed. And lifelong learning is the only solution that will keep an individual employable throughout the term of their life. But more importantly, it is what allows economies to remain competitive in a very rapidly evolving landscape.
Thank you. I'm going to delve off the script for a little bit because this is a very interesting topic. And once we're talking about the Golden Triangle, we spoke about the role of government. We will delve into the role of academic institutions, but also what about the role and the partnership with the industry leaders in providing you the insights and the needs? I mean, one of the things that that is very unique about 42 Amman is that all of our curriculum is on the cloud, and it's updated every 3 weeks, 4 weeks by industry leaders on what are the trends that are really leading what these graduates and their skills should be, not for in 5 years, but in the next 6 months. And one more thing is, it's also an eye-opener once we look at what is the skills gap on a global perspective. Because eventually, when we're talking about technology and providing jobs, we don't want to really prepare them for the jobs of the current ecosystem in one location or a region. We want them to be prepared and be very competitive with the skill sets that are on a global perspective, because today, and especially after COVID, you can code and learn and work online and be very independent on it. What is your perspective, and what form of impact stories maybe that you can give us in terms of partnerships with the industry, not at the hiring stage, but also on the development of the curriculum and the professional development for the professors at the universities as well?
Okay, again. Actually, Tina, the collaboration between industry, academia, and government is very essential for the development of socioeconomic well-being of Jordan. So we've seen, we wouldn't, see a flourishing economy without the contribution of industry, and we wouldn't see a strong governance system without the government enforcing policies, and we wouldn't see also research without the contribution of academia. So unfortunately, it seems like the three sectors don't seem to work together, in a satisfactory way. Like everybody is focusing on their own things without the involvement of the other, and everybody is consumed doing their own things because maybe they have different customers and different missions. But we see always and regularly a success story between two at a time, but not three of them. For example, between industry and academia, we've seen successful stories because the industry looks to academia as, to get a talent or a workforce for their, industries. And most lately, we've seen a very successful collaboration in terms of research to identify mutual benefits. So I think we could be doing more, to succeed these, collaboration. I could think of, the small innovative businesses. They could, seek the help of the universities to develop their research, and imagine what will the outcome be if the universities open up their doors and facilities to innovative entrepreneurs. I think the businesses will move from small to medium in a shorter time, because SMEs, they look at the government and they focus on the government, what the government can give them, which is really not too much. So I think research and development could be a focus of collaboration between industry and academia. And the other thing is the collaboration between academia and government. There is also a very successful stories about it. One of the examples is our education system is regulated by the government. Maybe this make us think that the academia is relying on the government rather than the government is relying on academia. So I think academia also could play a larger role in policy making, for example, research. And yes, there is plenty of opportunities. All the discussion that goes in the parliament, you can see a lot of potential. And what brings to my mind is research and policy making formulation. And Tina and everyone, water, energy, national health, economy are concerns that are facing Jordan nowadays. So, and everybody is discussing it from their own perspective. Depends on whether they gain or lose. So imagine what will happen if the academia research the impact of these policies. The outcome, and if this happens, the outcome will be, will ease the burden of a quick formulation because it's a popular opinion. And the most obvious relationship is between industry and government, because industry cannot create jobs, but the government can promise jobs, but they can't do it alone. They should engage with the industry to get this employment. So could more be done? Yes, of course. The ease of exports laws and imports laws will flourish the industry in that field. And when the industry flourishes, the government will benefit, unemployment rate will decrease, and also more taxes will be collected by the government. So see this example, two are very successful when they are together. So imagine what will happen if the three of them collaborated together for the same mission.
That's the hope. Professor Liz?
Thank you very much. So it's clear to me that government, industry, and academia need to be far more aligned and work more closely together. I see the role of government as trying to facilitate, legislate where possible, provide guidance. But of course, all of these things tend to run behind where people are using technology, simply because often we don't perceive or guess how people will use that technology in future. So legislation is effectively always going to run behind actual usage. So we need to take responsibility ourselves for how we train and how we use that technology with support of the government. But I think governments need to facilitate in terms of grants and loans to try and help ensure that tech companies can get the support they need and startups can get the support they need to invest and grow the technology and the impact of that technology. I think industry needs to work very closely with government and, of course, academia. But the government also has responsibility to try and ensure that everybody is facilitated and appropriately funded. I think in terms of education role, as I was saying earlier, that the key for me is very hard to guess how industry will actually use technology in future. But we have to ensure that our graduates are resilient, have an appropriate mindset, are able to adapt, be flexible, and able to cope in this very new world. And I suppose one of the things that just concerns me about the impact of technology, and we've seen it worldwide over the recent years, that it tends to diversify those that want to learn, those that don't want to learn, and technology can make many people richer and other people poorer, and we've seen that diversity for some time. What concerns me is we can certainly train the people who want to learn, but I suspect and I feel there is a proportion of society who may not want to keep upskilling, and it concerns me about what happens to those people and how they are included going forward in society if technology is tending to split how people evolve in the workplace. So I think something just to think about there. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Professor Liz.
Thank you for the question. I'm really excited about this question, actually, but I can't answer it without talking a little bit about the institution that I'm from, which is the University of Waterloo. And I'll tell you a little bit about how we've approached this problem. So the University of Waterloo was founded in 1957 in Waterloo, Ontario, in a very quiet farming town with horses and buggies are still on the road. And we're today a very large STEM institution and one of Canada's largest STEM institutions. But I don't think anybody at the time would have considered it possible to have established that university. And the reason why it got it established was between a collaboration between industry and academia. And our university runs on a model called cooperative education, where our students spend 4 months in the workplace, and then 4 months in the classroom, and then 4 months in the workplace, and then 4 months in the classroom. It's kind of akin to a sandwich degree in the UK, but it's a little bit different in that it's constantly rotating between the two. The result is that our students are constantly informed what is happening in the marketplace, what is happening in industry, and then there's a bit of a virtuous cycle because they bring that knowledge back to campus and inform the programming, the skills, and the curricula that they are taught at the university. And then they go out again into the workforce, and they test those assumptions and they test those skills against what is happening in the marketplace. Now, the University of Waterloo was also started by a legislative act, an act of government, and is run through a strategic mandate with the provincial government in which we're aligning on the workforce needs of the future. So, as I said, in 1957, when the university was started, our university, which is an engineering one, we graduated in Canada about 1,500 to 1,800 engineers at the time. But we knew in that post-war period that we were going to need about 150,000 engineers in about 10 years' time. And so it was government that took the action to create the university. It was an academia-industry partnership that resulted in the cooperative education model that allowed us to graduate engineers with work experience that were ready to then enter the workforce successfully as soon as they'd finished graduating. And it is that spirit that has resulted in what the university does today, where we have a very large tech corridor with about 200,000 tech workers and about 15,000 tech startups in the 100 kilometers between Toronto and Waterloo. So I think that there are a ton of ways for those three parts, those three axes of the triangle to work together. I won't paint a picture as though it's all moonshine and roses. We struggle with obtaining funding for the things that are important for us. for continuing to expand and continue to have the infrastructure to support our students. But I will just point to it as a hallmark of what I think has been a successful implementation of a golden triangle philosophy, if you like.
On that positive note, I want to also ask you if you can give examples of impact stories of successful partnerships with the industry that have led into drastic numbers of employment and really bridging that skill gap because of the involvement of the industry.
Well, I'm actually going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to take the opportunity to highlight something that's just happened while we've been here in Jordan over the last few days, and that is that we've recently entered into a partnership with an organization called PG Studios to train animators across Jordan and in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as well. And the object is to train about 580 students a year, meeting a need within the economy, and with a vision to create 50,000 jobs over the next 10 years, deeply linked to Jordan's vision and to Saudi Vision 2030. So this is a great example of where industry has identified the need. Academia has come to the table and said, we can identify the curricula, we can identify the skills because of the work that we've done, because of our relationship with industry, and also because of the research that happens at the university, and we can take that and translate it into a curriculum that's going to work in this scenario. And so I'm excited about that because we recently just started that. We signed an MOU last night launching that, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. Thank you for the question.
Yes, congratulations, and we're very proud of PG Studios for also being a very remarkable Jordanian company that has developed this international cooperation to bring you here and sign this MOU. On international cooperation and more examples, Professor Les, if you can give us some of your insights on that.
Thank you very much. So the example I'd like to give is from my own university, Abertay University, which is based in a small city, Dundee, in Scotland. It's a city that only has about 150,000 people. So going back some time into the 90s, Dundee technology started to become a technology hub and was producing a ZX Spectrum, if you're old enough to remember that computer, one of the first computers that was out. And from that, tech started in the city and gaming started in the city. We had worldwide success with a couple of games you may have heard of, Lemmings in 1991, and then Grand Theft Auto in 1997. As a result of that, Abertay University started the world's first games degree, working very closely with tech companies in the city, as I said, a very small city. We had competitions that drew international attention to what we were doing, and we've done a lot of research and design with the games companies in Dundee. That has now grown up, and we now have over 40 games companies in such a small city. We work extremely closely together. Industry are working with our students. We have students working with industry in terms of internships. We're doing leading edge research and development, and we're now moving into the area of virtual production because filmmaking and games technology are very much coming together. So it's been a huge success story. Abertay has helped develop cutting edge research for industry that has fed directly into their needs and challenges. But we have also supplied graduates to the technology, the games industry in Dundee and worldwide. So it's an ecosystem that is mutually beneficial and has worked extremely well. And obviously that's also been supported by some government grants which have facilitated that development. So a huge success for the city. That's what we're known for. And Abertay is #1 in Europe for games teaching and in the top 20 worldwide as a result of that ecosystem with industry.
Thank you. You just mentioned two of my favorite games, feeling very nostalgic,
Okay.
but also going into a very unique way of thinking about the gaming industry and the gamification that we do at 42. One remarkable thing that I see is the confidence and the self-reward in that gamification approach in terms of learning.
Yeah.
I would like to ask also Professor Wejdan on what are the impact stories that you've done at the Princess Sumaya University to achieve this really remarkable high number of employment? Because as I was walking around yesterday, I was very proud to see that there was a lot of graduates from Princess Sumaya University
Yes.
with industry partners today.
Yeah. Thank you, Tina. Let me start first by saying that Her Royal Highness Princess Sumaya bint Al Hassan is the founder of PSUT and is the chair of our board of trustees. She has envisioned PSUT as a hub of innovation, and technology is at the heart of every program that we offer to the students. So this makes, the students excellent and strongly, prepared for the modern career. So we do a lot of things at PSUT. I could, mention some of the experience that we do to make the students ready for the job market needs. So we, first of all, we do, internship for the students, and we do mock interviews for the students to gain experience what the workforce needs in order to make them, strong before they actually, apply for the job advertisements. We also send our students to exchange programs, opportunities, and this will equip the students with a different digital skills, experience, and digital skills is very essential because different digital skills environment will equip the students with more confidence, as you mentioned. And we also encourage our students to participate in competitions and conferences. And you must hear about, our achievements in competitions, especially in the programming and coding competitions. Last year, PSUT students secured the first place in penetration testing competition that was held in Rochester Institute of Technology. They beat Stanford and MIT at that time, so we are very proud of our students. So we also had two very exciting special programs. One of them is the Venture Lab program, and the other one is Entrepreneur in Residence. So both programs prepare the students for the job market needs, equipping them with entrepreneurial, Polish kind of thinking, allowing our students to mingle with experienced entrepreneur and, go through the project management and critical skills and allow, the students to practice with experienced entrepreneur how to get into these skills in the job market and do their own startups as well. And we also do capstone design projects with, with the stakeholders from the industry on real-life problems, and this makes also the students prepared for the job needs. And extra things we do is, send our students for opportunities outside for workshops, and we encourage our students to take certifications. And we are very proud because our students, they don't only take certification at the entry level. Most of our students, they have intermediate and advanced certification, and this also allows them, to get into the job market very easily. One of the success stories also we have is the students and the clubs, the coding and the programming clubs that we have at PSUT. One of the examples is the ACM Club. ACM Club prepare the students for coding programming challenges that can get them into Google, Microsoft, and Amazon very easily. And also we adopted micro-credential Coursera Career Academy courses, so the students can take the macro-credentials, and the macro-credentials can be added to their transcripts before they graduate, and this will add to their experience and the skills as well.
And their mindset with that entire global exposure.
Yeah, of course.
On an ending note, before thanking all of you, I would like you to imagine that we're jumping not so far, 25 years in the future. What are the key skills and what are the jobs that you see coming into the market, and how would you like to get that discussion going with the private sector right here, because they might have a different opinion?
As for me, yeah. Of course, everybody knows that besides machine learning and programming, coding, blockchain nowadays, and the hacking and the software development, I think what is coming next is the quantum computing. And I remember one of my colleagues in the other panel, he mentioned it. And I think this is an opportunity for all universities to include quantum computing in their curricula because it's developing very fast, and everybody will change, when the quantum computing, invade all of our systems. So I think quantum computing is an opportunity for us to include and teach for our students.
So I think it's really hard to even predict 5 years, and let alone 25 years. I wouldn't dare. But I think I go back to the skills that I talked about earlier in terms of how things are changing. People need to understand how to work with AI, how to work with data, how to visualize it, and that's across all disciplines, not just in the tech industry. So I think trying to help our students to be adaptable, to be resilient, to ensure that they can cope with this ever-changing world. And of course, you know, there are a lot of predictions around the automation of jobs, but not just some jobs, all jobs, whole industries. You know, it's interesting, the forecasts are that the first two professions to be completely automated will be lawyers and accountants. We wait to be seen, but I think, you know, trying to work together with industry, government and academia to try and ascertain what those skills are and what people need is going to be much more important in future.
Thank you.
Like my wise colleagues, I'm not going to try and predict exactly what the jobs of 2050 might be, but I will share a quote from Bill Gates, and I hope I'm not butchering it, but he said that in general, we overestimate, what will be achieved in the next 2 years with technology, and underestimate what we will achieve in the next 10 years. And I think that's very true. We don't know exactly where we're headed, but we know that the pace at which we're going there is increasing. I will add two things that I think that come to mind. The first is the growing human-machine interface. It is the hallmark of the fourth industrial revolution that humans work very closely with machines now. Those are skills that we haven't really necessarily learned how to do. We've learned a little bit about how to work with others, and maybe not so well with other people, but we need to learn how to work with machines in a meaningful way, and also how machines are going to help us to facilitate teamwork and decision-making, which we don't know just yet. And the second thing is, in a world in which we have access to information in an unprecedented way, and this is going to continue in the foreseeable future, critical thinking and the discernment in a world of misinformation and things like that becomes very, very important. So I'll just add those as maybe some skills areas that I think are definitely important as we look forward.
Thank you. I'd like to say my perspective on that. I think we'll also be not only bridging the gap on the skills for humans, but also teaching the machines the empathy, the humanizing of technology in the world we're in, so that we're in a safer place and they're able to really expand that technology and the learning forward, not become a hinder for our students in their learning, especially today with students choosing to use ChatGPT for homework instead of doing it themselves. I'd like to thank you all again. And thank you for Intaj for this remarkable MENA ICT Forum and all of the collaborators on making this event a success. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina.